What's going on, guys? Welcome to another stimulus check update. So we have a lot to discuss. There are some new information that's coming out about this previous stimulus package that Democrats are now wanting to use what they have put in place, and that was actually just a stepping stone to get to that next level. So I want to break this all down because what we are seeing now is actually all starting to make sense. It's very interesting what we are getting now, but I want to bring you up to speed on all those details. First, here's what we know. The stimulus checks are coming out tomorrow. It is currently March 16th, and stimulus checks should be available for the majority of Americans tomorrow on March 17th. That is the current date that many banks are going to release these funds, or actually have the funds available to millions and millions of Americans. So that right there is good news. If you have not received your stimulus check yet, please comment down below and just write stimulus. I'm curious how many people are still waiting. I know a lot of people have already received their checks, but I'm curious how many are still waiting. So the good news is you should be able to have your money by this weekend as long as you got direct deposit. If you're still waiting for a paper check, that will come next Wednesday. And if you're waiting for a prepaid debit card, that will come next Monday. If you're still waiting for a debit card, that will come in about 2 weeks on Monday. So a little bit less than 2 weeks away. Now, reports this morning are saying that, and this is weird, but that Democrats have decided to change the definition of bipartisanship. And again, this is weird, but this is starting to make sense why President Biden has said that we did have bipartisan support on the previous $1.9 trillion stimulus package. We also heard many other lawmakers say, yes, there was bipartisan support, yet no Republican voted for it. And then everybody was wondering, well, how did we get bipartisan support? Well, here's what Democrats are saying. They are saying that bipartisan support or bipartisanship was attained because it was bipartisan amongst the American people. So between you and I, this is where they said we had bipartisan support, because there was a bunch of Republicans, not in Congress, but there's a bunch of Republican voters out there that did support this. So because of that, that is what made this bill bipartisan. Well, that kind of leads us into the next thing, which is, according to many reports, this is exactly the plan that Democrats want to use again. They want to go and get bipartisan support, not really from Congress because they don't need it, because they can do a budget reconciliation, but they want to get bipartisan support from the American people on this $2 to $3 trillion infrastructure bill. So even though Democrats are saying they would like unity and bipartisanship, this does not mean it's going to come amongst lawmakers within Congress. It is pretty much just going to come between the American people, the voters like you and I. So that's kind of what we're hearing there. Again, it's a little odd, but that's kind of the situation we're in. Now, today, again, this leads us to the next thing, which is the filibuster, which many lawmakers are currently saying that no, we cannot get rid of the filibuster, and others, mainly progressives, are saying that yes, we need to get rid of the filibuster. It's doing us absolutely no good. Even Dick Durbin stood up today. He's the number 2 Senate Democrat, but he stood up today and he argued that yes, we need to get rid of the filibuster because it's doing us absolutely no good. However, this is where many people are saying that no, that we can't get rid of the filibuster because this would only make things more difficult. Even Mitch McConnell stood up and said the exact same thing, that no, it would make things more difficult. And according to multiple reports, not having a filibuster would most likely cause more problems than what we're currently seeing right now. So what we did hear from Mitch McConnell, he said that not, and I quote, not having a filibuster would function more like a 100-car pileup. Nothing would be moving. Now here's what he means, okay? Because I was curious, how would nothing be moving if we got rid of the filibuster? Because Democrats would get all their priorities. They would not have to worry about a budget reconciliation. They wouldn't have to worry about, going over or going through the Senate parliamentarian. How would this be like a 100-car pileup? I was a little confused by this at first, but then it all made sense. Here's what I figured out through my research and just obviously just common sense, knowing what I do know. This is kind of what I came up with. The reason that getting rid of the filibuster and having a 50-50 split Senate, the reason why this would be like a 100-car pileup and nothing would be moving is actually pretty simple. Currently, we have Joe Manchin, a centrist Democrat who was opposed to some Democratic priorities. Well, what happened? He held up the Senate for about 10 hours during this last $1.9 trillion stimulus package during the vote-a-rama. He held up the stimulus bill for about 10 hours simply because he did not like the unemployment at $400 per week, and he wanted it down to $300. Then he wanted to extend it for an additional 1 week. He didn't really like the stimulus check phase outs, and so he had to adjust that. And so there's a lot of things that were changed because of this. Well, that was just one person. If every Democrat, because we get rid of the filibuster, if every Democrat has that exact same power that they can simply hold up all talks, all negotiations, hold up the entire bill, because they now have more power than, well, they have the same amount of power as every single Democrat because they're in a 50-50 Senate, 50-50 split. The problem there is that's why nothing would get done. Every single senator, Senate Democrat, would know, hey, well, if you don't get my vote, if you don't input these priorities into this bill, I'm not going to vote on it. So you need to give me this. Well, if two Senate Democrats are, let's say Joe Manchin wants, $400 or $300 per week in unemployment, and let's say Bernie Sanders wants $600. Well, how do you go from we're at $400, Bernie Sanders wants more and says, if you don't give me $600, I'm not going to vote for it. And Joe Manchin's like, if you don't give me $300, I'm not going to vote for it. Well, how do you fix that? There'd be no way to fix that. And that would just be one issue. And that's where we are currently seeing that, yes, this could potentially ruin the Senate. This could make sure every single bill that we ever see come out of the Senate, it's going to have more than a 60 vote majority, because chances are no Democrat, or not every single Democrat, would vote for the exact same provisions every single time. And this is what would be at a standstill on every single vote. So as of right now, many lawmakers, not just senators, believe that the filibuster does work. It does provide a purpose, and getting rid of this would actually make things a little bit more difficult. So as we get more information there, I promise I'll fill you in on that. But this is what is causing a lot of lawmakers to feel like the only way forward is we have to deal with the filibuster. We can't get rid of that, but we need to use a budget reconciliation again. Well, we know Joe Manchin is opposed to this if we go forward with this before Democrats reach out to Republicans, which as of right now, many have not been reached out to. This means that seeing the $15 minimum wage provision in this next bill for infrastructure is probably not going to happen, because we know it already will not go through the Senate. However, what we do know is that some are saying that if we can't get another $15 minimum wage provision included into the next bill, then maybe we need to do another stimulus check to provide for those that truly are in need. They say if you do not have a stimulus check, or let's say you do have a stimulus check, great, but if you didn't get one, at least if you had more money that you're making per hour, that would kind of substitute for missing out on the check. Well, if you don't have the $15 minimum wage and you don't have a stimulus check, then what do? Well, if it comes down to the two things and they do a budget reconciliation, well, you can't do a $15 minimum wage, so the only option is, well, here's another stimulus check. That is why a lot of people do believe a stimulus check is most likely going to happen. Now, it is because of this that we've heard from many lawmakers, but Bernie Sanders today, he said he believes the budget reconciliation is the only path forward. He said, and I quote, "What I have seen this year and in the past years is that if we want to do something significant, it is very hard to get Republican support. So, the devil is, of course, in the details. If Republicans are prepared to support a significant and important piece of legislation that deals with climate change, deals with infrastructure, that's great. My own feeling is, at this point, I doubt that will be the case." So, he is on the side with many others that simply believe Republicans will not be on board no matter what. And it's very difficult to get them on board simply because right now Republicans feel a little bit disrespected that they weren't included into the last stimulus package or even into the discussions. So right now, we know that the budget reconciliation that Democrats want to pass, it will most likely get a lot of support from the American people, and it will probably address a lot of the popular priorities amongst the American people, amongst the voters as well. However, and I just want to bring this up, somebody commented today asking if I ever bring up the negative parts of the bill, and I try not to because there are a bunch, but I try not to because it makes a lot of people very upset knowing that yes, the Senate and the House, and I guess all Democrats, just passed a bill that we're going to have to pay for. The American people have to pay for, that does include some fat, has a bunch of pork in it that we don't need, and it has nothing to do with COVID relief. So I just want to address that yes, even though there's going to be a bunch of popular priorities included into the infrastructure bill or President Biden's Build Back Better plan, there's still going to be a lot of fat included in this bill. There's going to be a bunch of wish list priorities as well. And the reason for this is not necessarily because Democrats feel, yes, we need all these things, but there's a few people that say, hey, if you don't give us this, we're not going to support your bill. And so especially in the Senate, this is where we get this a lot, is okay, well, if you don't give this Senate Democrat this priority, he or she's not going to vote on it. So you have to give them something that they want in order to get them to vote in support of the bill that you are proposing. And this is where politics really digs in. And the big thing, what we are getting reports on right now is this $3,600 or $3,000 child tax credit is something that Democrats never really wanted to extend for many years. They were discussing possibly making this child tax credit possibly a 2-year provision. However, that was just the original thought process. What we are hearing now is that more and more lawmakers are saying that this was the initial step towards getting low-income families some type of child allowance per month. And that was always the goal. So what we know is by introducing this as a child tax credit, it was able to get more lawmakers on board to support this. But now that this is here and this has become law, progressives want to change the text of the bill to make this more of an allowance for children as opposed to an end-of-the-year child tax credit. So we will see what happens there, but that is a big change. That is something that we could potentially see really get pushed into the future. But this is a big thing. This is big depending on how they rework this. So I promise I'll keep you updated on all that stuff. But just know there's a lot coming out right now, a lot of new information, a lot of things are starting to be uncovered based on what passed in the previous $1.9 trillion stimulus package. So as I know more, I promise I will share more. Just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing so I can continue to keep you updated on everything that's going on. I'll see you guys on the next one.